Thank you for watching True Crime Time. For tonight's video, I want to share with you an interesting picture that I came across that really opens the door to a lot of questions on what happened on the third floor of the house that night. And then I want to show you a step-by-step walkthrough on what Brian's movements would have been as he made his way up to Maddie's room on the third floor and then made his way down the stairs to exit out the kitchen sliding door. I was looking back at some of the older pictures that were released right after the crime occurred, and this one caught my eye because, as you know, Kaylee and Maddie were found in Maddie's bed, but we aren't quite sure whether or not they were sleeping in the same bed. We don't know if Kaylee had furniture in her room still because there was talk that she had moved out. But as we can see in this picture, we can see that there's a bed there. It appears to be made. It looks like somebody would have just gotten up out of the bed there, kind of flipped the covers back and then stood up. So this really, I think, opens up a lot of questions on how things happened on the third floor of the house on the night of the murders. Just because Kaylee and Maddie were found in Maddie's room on the bed doesn't mean they were necessarily there when they were attacked. I do think Maddie was in her bed when she was attacked, and I don't think Maddie had an opportunity to even say anything, but I think it's very possible that Kaylee was not in Maddie's room when the attack started, and Kaylee may have encountered Brian right after he had attacked Maddie. But I do still have some questions on how things exactly unfolded on the third floor. So I kind of want to share my theory with you and then hear what you have to say, and maybe we can figure this out together. So here's a little bit more of a close-up of the picture of Kaylee's room. Even though Kaylee and Maddie were found in Maddie's bed, I think Kaylee would have more likely been sleeping in her room with Murphy. I don't think she would have been locking Murphy into a separate room and then be sleeping in a small bed with Maddie. Now, I'm going to show you here later in the video, Maddie's room is pretty small and her bed wouldn't be a very large bed. I don't know if it was a double or what, but it doesn't make sense to me that the two of them would be sleeping in the same bed if Kaylee had the option to sleep in her own bed in her room with Murphy. The other thing that supports Kaylee being in her room with Murphy is Dylan's statement, where she says that she thought she heard Kaylee playing with Murphy in her room or in one of the rooms upstairs. I think Dylan would recognize what Murphy sounded like moving around, so when she said she heard what she thought was Kaylee playing with Murphy, I think the key there is that she heard Murphy. And I think Murphy would have been moving around because he heard something in Maddie's room and it stirred him and he was anxious and moving around in Kaylee's room, which would have woken Kaylee up. And it's possible that Kaylee walked out of her room. She would have shut the door to keep Murphy in the room. She wouldn't just let him run out of the room, and she may have made her way over to Maddie's room to investigate what was going on. But I do have a secondary theory as well that I'm going to share with you coming up here. But first, let's take a look at what Brian's movements would have been once he entered the house and made his way upstairs towards Maddie's room. So most likely the entry point would have been the sliding door that leads into the kitchen. And if Brian had entered through this door, he would have been looking through the kitchen here and kind of into the hallway there as he made his way to the stairs. Now, there were some additional stools and things in the kitchen that you can see in some other photos, so there was probably some clutter in this kitchen area as he walked through, but he would have come in this door and then started heading towards the staircase right around this corner. I think he was targeting Maddie's room, and so he would have specifically made his way to that place. So I think this view here is very interesting. This is the top of the staircase on the third floor, and you can see here, this is where the door to Kaylee's room would have been. You can see the wood floors here, and you can also see how close this door and then that shared wall. So any sound, coming from Maddie's room could easily travel this direction, and a dog would probably pick up on those sounds pretty well. So the idea that Brian would have made his way directly to Maddie's room does support the fact that she would have been his target. Kaylee and Murphy would have been asleep in this room with the door shut. Brian would have turned to his right and then headed toward Maddie's room. I think he would have quietly entered Maddie's room, looked over to his left and saw Maddie sleeping in the bed, slowly made his way around to the edge of the bed, where the attack would have started. Now, this is the part about this theory that bothers me, because we don't know how long Brian was alone with Maddie. If Murphy were in the other room and being stirred by some noise, that means there was something happening to create the noise, and we don't know how long it would have taken for Kaylee to react to that. So there could have been a good number of minutes where Brian was in this room, just he and Maddie, before he was encountered by Kaylee. So once Kaylee was stirred, I do think there's a couple of scenarios on how the encounter with Brian could have happened, and this is where I really wanted to hear everybody else's thoughts as well on what you think could have occurred. So if we look at the floor plan here, we can see on the left where Kaylee's room would have been. So this would mean that if she heard something and she started heading towards Maddie's room, she would have either encountered Brian in the hallway or possibly in the doorway of Maddie's room. But if Brian was at the edge of Maddie's bed and Kaylee had walked into the bedroom and saw Brian standing there, she could have turned the other direction and ran down the stairs to escape. So you have to wonder, how did Kaylee end up on Maddie's bed? So I'm not sure if Kaylee walked in and saw Brian in Maddie's room. I wonder if there may have been an encounter in the hallway which forced Kaylee into Maddie's room during the attack. I also wonder if it's possible Kaylee would have gone to the bathroom when she was stirred by Murphy, not knowing what was going on. But I know that when I'm sleeping and I'm woken up in the middle of the night, you realize you have to use the restroom, and so you get up and you go. So I wonder as well, could Kaylee have been asleep and had been stirred by Murphy? She woke up, didn't realize what was happening, didn't really hear it at that point. Maybe Brian heard Murphy and was even anticipating somebody to come and check. But I wonder if Kaylee had gone into the bathroom and Brian could have come into the hallway and had been waiting for her and then attacked her, and the attack made its way into Maddie's room. The other thing that makes me think that the bathroom has some significance here is, if you remember in the PCA and in the warrant that was released, when the officer describes coming into the house and seeing the bodies where they were, there's a part where he mentions that the first officer pointed out the bathroom to him just before they went to Maddie's room. So I wonder, why would he have been pointing out the bathroom? Just to say, hey, there's the bathroom. Oh, by the way, here's where the murders took place, in this bedroom over here. I wonder if there's some evidence there to show that the attacks took place in the bathroom and then made their way over into Maddie's room. Could it have been Kaylee saying there's someone here while she was being attacked? Could she have even been saying it to Maddie as she entered Maddie's room, being attacked by Brian, not knowing that Maddie had been attacked? So the description of the injuries being different on Maddie and Kaylee would make sense, because Maddie was attacked more slowly potentially, where Kaylee was attacked in a fury because she encountered the killer, and at that point the fight was on. So after the attacks, Brian would have made his way down the staircase, heading toward that back sliding door that he had come in from. And it's here that I think it's very possible he encountered Ethan or Xana, possibly to the right here in that hallway, and he saw just one person. It's a good chance it was Xana who he saw, so he decided to chase her down and attack her to eliminate that witness. I think from there, he encountered Ethan. Ethan would have been surprised and not really knowing and just kind of figuring out what was happening. And Brian could have very well said to Ethan, "It's okay, I'm going to help you," and then surprised Ethan with an attack. Once that was done, he knew he had to get out of there because there were more people in the home than he expected. It was louder than expected, and it was time to get out and escape. Everybody, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to subscribe. My next video will be coming out very soon.